Hello, and welcome to the Traveling Homesteader and Gyroscope Farm. I'm Kathy. In case you hear a meow, that's Tommy up there. And in case you hear a baa, it's one of the sheep over there, because we're in the barn today. And today's job, crossing fingers, is to hopefully shear my 3 sheep that need to be sheared. Now, I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. But let me fill you in on the background of that. So about 18 years ago, I had another set of sheep that I started to raise when I first moved out to Oregon. And I ended up raising predominantly Icelandic sheep. And I learned along the way kind of the ins and outs of the fiber business, kind of what you've seen on the channel so far with going to mills and doing fiber stuffs, spinning, going to fiber mills. But also, I learned how to shear sheep. Because I wanted to know how to do it. And so it really gave me an insight to the shearer's life. Now, shearing sheep is not easy. It takes some time to build up, and it takes some strength. You get to work with a lot of different types of people and sheep. And so it ended up teaching me a lot of different things and how to appreciate the shearer and how to manipulate and maneuver sheep when I needed to. So that's what's going to happen today, is because when I was shearing, or when I was working with sheep before, it was a little bit difficult to find a good shearer, but we were able to, there's a handful that we could find locally that I was able to use to work with and have them come to my house. What I found along the way was that the smaller your flock, the harder it was to get them to come out. And like this, today I only have 3 sheep that need to be sheared. I have a total of 4. The baby isn't getting sheared yet because he's only about 3 months old and his fiber isn't fully grown yet. So he's going to get sheared probably at the next time I do it, which will probably be this fall. But the 3 adults are well past their time for shearing. They should have gotten sheared, at least a month ago, if not 2 or so months ago. So because of my small flock and because of the lessening of the amount of shearers that are available, there's a high demand for shearers right now, and so they're pretty busy going about their loop, doing their work for this time of the year. So if anyone's really interested in a different type of job that really pays well and you get to travel, I'd consider going to be a shearer. And I know for me, I was able to go to a sheep shearer school. They have it. And it was at Oregon State University, and it was maybe 4 or 5 weeks long, and we went about twice a week, and we actually had hands-on time plus classroom time, and it was kind of interesting. It really helped me know and understand shearing, and it really gave me a greater appreciation for those that do that for their jobs. So, but because I only have my 3 sheep, the likelihood of a shearer being able to come to me right now is slim, because it ends up costing them more to do 3 sheep than probably more. And if I remember right, and it's been a little while, depending on the shearer, they will charge either a flat fee plus per sheep, or they will charge per sheep with like a travel fee. Now, in my case, because I have the 3, the person probably would do a flat fee that would be somewhere in the range of $50 to $100. Plus, it would be an additional amount for each sheep. And again, that varies just a little bit. But for each sheep, it would probably only take about, for a professional shearer, not me today, it would probably take about 3 to 5 minutes per animal. So so about 15 minutes per my flock, they would get approximately, I'd say even with I usually try to tip them, they'd easily get $100, at least from me. But it's not only the time here, it's having them come from wherever they are to my home, so their travel time. And the one that I was able to find that didn't call me back was up about an hour and a half away. So it would be less time for him to be here than it would be for him to travel to and from. So those are some things to consider, and part of the reason why I decided to do my own shearing today. So part of that too, another reason and I'll show you here in a minute, some of the things that I'm going to use today to shear are actually somewhat simple. I'm going to start out with this tarp. I'm going to lay it down in my stall with my sheep, so it acts as a bit of a clean space for the sheep. It'll take up the wool that I have that I'll shear off, but it'll also keep the dirt and the hay from the fiber. The fiber already has a bunch of extra junkus or I call it junkus or VM, which means vegetable matter. And so that vegetable matter or junkus is already out in there from when they were out in the field. So there's leaves, there's prickers, there's sticks, there's all sorts of stuff, dirt. But this is going to help hopefully keep it from getting more of the hay in their fleece. And then the other thing I have is I have a couple of big plastic bags. Now, I know already that at least one of my fleeces is going to be no good for me to process into like yarn or something else because it's already felted. That's why it's so important for me to get it off him so he can be healthy and start growing his other fiber for me to use later. So, but I'll use what I can from the other sheep. And remember that this today is a haircut. I'm not killing my sheep for this wool. We'll just put that out there. I ended up reading an article a few years ago in the PETA magazine that seemed to insinuate that shearing sheep to get their fiber off meant you had to kill them. In this case, that's not true. I'm giving them a haircut. Now, if you want their pelt, yes, they are getting skinned with their fiber or hair on. So yes, that is when they are dead. You'd not take their hide off and expect them to live. So today is a haircut, legitimately. And so with that in mind, I got this. So this is my new set of clippers. Now, they're getting a little anxious over there. They're like, wait a minute, something's up. So I will point out that when you shear sheep, the shears are heavier duty because of the dirt and because of the lanolin that you need to push the blades through. So this is my new set of clippers, and you can see that this is a big blade. This is what a set of clippers for shearing looks like. Now it's a slightly different than an electric powered one because this is battery powered, but generally speaking, there is a bit of a flare to most shearing blades, and that helps kind of get a little bit more fiber in, and it allows a little less picking at the skin, so to speak. But I ended up getting this because it is battery operated, and I got it because my electric down here at the barn is quasi, and so while I do have it available, it's a little bit funky sometimes. So I wanted to make sure I had the ability to do it without electricity. So that's my setup here. Believe it or not, sounds pretty loud. So that's that, and I'm going to try to use these today. I'm going to try to use the style of shearing that most professionals do. I'll tell you now, I'll probably struggle a little bit, and I'll probably shift around it so I can get it off their bodies as clean and neat as I can without injuring them or me. So that's what this is, and at some point I am going to oil it up slightly, and I'm going to start shearing. So I hope you can stick around and check it out. Come here. It's okay. It's okay. Come here. So we're going to try to go with Petunia first. We'll see what happens. this is Petunia, and as you can see, it didn't go the way I had expected, so I started shearing her with her standing up, and this is how far I've gotten so far. And she's breathing heavily, in part because it's hot here today, but also with the experience of shearing. So I thought I'd show you how I do this and how it's going. So this is the other side, and we're working our way through it. Certainly not an easy task. Like I said, I appreciate shearers. So let's see how this side goes. So that's a little bit more of how we're doing it. And this isn't normally the way you'd shear a sheep, but because it's hot and I'm not experienced, I'm kind of going step by step, little bit by little bit. So we'll see how she looks when we're done. So we got Petunia done. You can see over here that she's all cleaned up as much as I can do right now after both of us are. But I want to then take, this is Ramen right here, and then on the other side of Petunia, you can kind of see in the dark right there, that's Marty. He is not going to get sheared today because he's only about 3 months old. He doesn't have his the need for right now. Then the only other one that we're going to do today, is Mickey here. He's this big guy over here. Now his is the fleece that I know will not be good for much because it's all matted. So hopefully the next time you see us, everyone will have their hair off. Woohoo! So just as a recap, I just mentioned, and I said the wrong word. Sometimes I do that and I should make sure I make the proper correction. So my sheep have fiber, not hair. And there are hair sheep, and usually hair sheep don't get shorn because their hair can kind of come out in clumps on their own naturally. But my sheep are fiber sheep, as others that I've had before. Sorry, that's Petunia rubbing on the fence. She's saying, oh, that feels good. So both she and Mickey are now naked, and they're resting and feeling much more better. So that's a good thing. But I wanted to show you something that was rather interesting to me. Once their fiber is off, in this case, this is Petunia, and her fiber, what I saw was, I like her fiber. I thought I would from the beginning. But you might see that there's a bit of a yellow tint to it. And what I remember of that is if you see yellow and it's kind of clumping down towards the clipped end or towards the body, that means their bodies had too much protein. I don't see quite that much yellow, but I suspect that because there is yellowing from the lanolin, that I've given them too much protein to this point. Now, too, Petunia was pregnant and she gave birth to Marty and Cliff. And so that could be part of the reason why I was trying to give her a little extra oomph for while she was pregnant. But that just means that I'll have to clean it a little bit extra. Now, her fleece is, I'm going to try to clean her fleece and spin it and see what comes of it. And so, but her staple length is a lot longer than what Mickey had. And remember, if you remember from past fiber videos, this is a staple length. So this part is the part that was out the longest, and this part is the part that I clipped off the body. So body, end, other end. And you can see that this is a fairly long staple length. And as the two ladies that I got these sheep from, one of them pointed out, and it's true, that the longer the staple length, the less likely a fiber processor will process it for you. So that's part of the reason why today was a great learning experience for me, but also it helps remind me when to get my sheep shorn to get the processing done better. So, for example, this was a little bit too long for Petunia, and I probably should have done it about, a month or so ago at the latest. But now we're into the end of May, and I just wasn't able to find a shearer. So that's in part why I decided to do it on my own. The other thing that I learned today is that I am not able to pick up the sheep as I had hoped, like a regular shearer would. So I may, for the next time I do this, build myself or get a sheep stand. So that way I can stand my sheep up and have them, their head kind of in a halter and or lock, so that I can then shear them with a little more ease and possibly up a little bit higher. So that's kind of what I learned. But the other thing I wanted to point out was Mickey's fleece. Now he's the one I told you about that I wasn't going to have processed because of it felting. And as you can kind of tell, this is the side that I'd shorn, and it's kind of staying together because the other side has felted. And so you can kind of see how it's clumped together. And as we get it a little closer, it's kind of gnarly, nappy. But the interesting bit is that's his natural color. So he's a white or silvery color. And in parts, he was looking more brown. So you can kind of see that the ends are kind of sun bleached. And that really affects kind of the outer part. But that's why the inner part's actually really interesting to me, because it's so different. But I'm excited about his fleece for the next time around because of the nice kink to it. He has a really kind of pretty fleece, if boys can have pretty fleece. And so I'm really excited to see how he turns out the next time we shear. And so with that in mind, I hope you learned as much as I did this time around. I know for me this was really a big learning experience from when I first learned how to shear. I hate to say it, about 18 years ago. So I know with the next time, I'll be kind of making some adjustments and crossing fingers those sheep will look better. I know they're a bit rough, but my one concern too is getting them shorn so that they're healthy for the summer. If they have their fleece on too much, too long, they can get heat sickness and stuff like that. So that was really an important factor too. So, and once I get Ramen all set, well, I'll show you her too, kind of a before and after. But for today, thanks for stopping on by, and I really do appreciate you sticking through to the end. And if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button and tell me what you've learned today on homesteading, farming, or whatever. So thanks again for stopping by.